Look, I had been on the Galactic Council Oversight Committee for 347 cycles. 347. In all that time I had watched species after species come crawling, begging, pleading for membership. The Vorthians brought gifts. The Kalmar brought tribute. The Zenthrope actually prostrated themselves for 2 full rotations until we finally told them to stand up, because it was getting awkward. But humans? Oh, by the 17 moons of Calthex, humans were different. My name is Vorix, by the way. I am a Caltherian, which means I have 4 eyes, 2 trunks, and absolutely no patience for diplomatic nonsense. Which makes my job on the council particularly entertaining, or infuriating. Depends on the day, really. The day humanity arrived for their membership hearing started like any other tedious session. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from 233 species, all seated in their designated hoverpods, all radiating that particular smugness that comes from being part of an exclusive club. The air recyclers hummed. The translation matrix buzzed softly. Everything was perfectly, predictably boring. Then the human delegation walked in. And I mean walked. Not floated, not teleported, not slithered or rolled or phased through dimensional barriers. They walked on 2 legs like some kind of primitive ground mammals, which technically there were 5 of them. The lead was a female named Captain Reina Vasquez. She wore a dark blue uniform with absolutely ridiculous amounts of colored ribbons on the chest. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her face was set in what I would later learn humans call a professional smile, which is apparently completely different from a genuine smile or a polite smile or a threatening smile. Humans have 17 different types of smiles. 17. We Caltharians have 1. It works fine. Behind Vasquez was her security chief, a mountain of muscle named Marcus Webb, who looked like he could bend steel beams for fun. Then came their science officer, a small nervous woman named Dr. Keiko Tanaka, who kept adjusting her glasses. Their diplomat was a smooth-talking man called Ambassador James Okonkwo, who had probably charmed his way through every negotiation in human history. And finally their tech specialist, a younger woman named Lieutenant Sofia Ramirez, who was definitely not paying attention to the council and was instead scanning the chamber with some handheld device. Humans of Earth, High Chancellor Braylock began, his 7 voice chambers resonating through the hall. Braylock was a Thoraxian, which meant he looked like someone had crossed a mantis with a corporate executive and given it delusions of grandeur. You stand before the Galactic Council to petition for membership in our alliance. Do you understand the weight of this moment? Captain Vasquez nodded once. We do, Chancellor. Then let us begin with the standard evaluation. Braylock's mandibles clicked together in what we all recognized as satisfaction. This was his favorite part. The part where he got to tear apart the petitioning species and remind them of their cosmic insignificance. Your species is remarkably young. You have only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last 20 cycles. Most species require at least 1,000 cycles of spacefaring experience before they are even considered for council membership. Is that a question or a statement? Vasquez asked. Oh, I liked her already. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their hoverpods. Nobody interrupted Braylock. It is an observation, Braylock continued, his tone sharp enough to cut atmosphere. Your species has no significant technological achievements. Your ships are crude. Your weapons are primitive. Your computational systems are laughably simple. Your mathematics, while adequate, lack the elegance of true universal languages. Ambassador Okonkwo stepped forward slightly. With respect, Chancellor, we have made considerable advances in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biomedical technology. Our fusion drives may be new, but they are efficient and reliable. Councillor Threx, a void walker with a body made of compressed gas and spite, let out a sound like escaping steam. Efficient by whose standards? Your fastest ships take weeks to cross sectors that our vessels cross in hours. Your medical science still relies on physically cutting into bodies like barbarians. Your artificial intelligence systems are so limited they cannot even predict your own stock markets. They got a few laughs from the gallery. Humans used stock markets. In the 45th millennium. How quaint. Dr. Tanaka spoke up, her voice quieter but firm. Our medical techniques have achieved a 98% success rate in organ transplantation. Our AI systems have solved protein folding problems that stood unsolved for centuries, and our fusion technology produces zero radioactive waste, while achieving temperatures that rival stellar cores. Impressive for children, Councillor Yalrix sneered. She was a crystalline, wait, no, I cannot use that word. She was a prismarian, all facets and refracted light, and condescension. But children nonetheless. Tell me, humans, what do you offer the Council? What makes you worth our time? Here it comes, I thought. The moment where the petitioning species lists their resources, their strategic location, their willingness to serve as buffer states or trading partners, or military auxiliaries, the moment where they debase themselves for the privilege of sitting at our table. Captain Vasquez crossed her arms. What do we offer? How about we turn that around? What do you offer us? The chamber went silent. Braylock's mandibles stopped clicking. Excuse me? You heard me, Chancellor. Vasquez took a step forward. Just one step. But somehow that one step made every single council member focus on her with absolute attention. We came here in good faith to discuss mutual cooperation. But so far all you have done is insult our achievements, mock our technology, and treat us like supplicants begging for scraps. So I will ask again. What do you offer us? The protection of the Council, Braylock said slowly as if explaining to a particularly stupid child. Access to established trade routes. Diplomatic immunity. The collective knowledge of 233 spacefaring civilizations. The security that comes from being part of the greatest alliance in the known galaxy. Protection. From what? Marcus Webb asked. His voice was deep enough to rattle the hoverpods. We have handled our own security since we left our homeworld. We have not asked for your help. We have not needed your help. You have been fortunate, Councillor Threx said. But fortune runs out. The galaxy is dangerous for those who stand alone. Is that a threat? Lieutenant Ramirez asked, not looking up from her scanning device. It is reality, Threx replied. There are species out here that would consume your entire civilization, before you even understood what was happening. The Krovar swarm, the Void Collective, the Entropy cults. Without council protection, you are prey. Right? Vasquez said. She turned to Dr. Tanaka. Doctor, how many Krovar incursions have we repelled in the last cycle? 4, Captain, Tanaka replied, pulling up a datapad. 3 at our outer colonies, 1 that reached the Sol system itself, all repelled with minimal casualties. And the Void Collective probe that entered our space? Destroyed within 18 minutes of detection. And the Entropy cult missionaries? Politely asked to leave. When they refused, they were impolitely asked to leave. They left. Vasquez turned back to the Council. So your protection from threats we are already handling. What else? I had to suppress a snort. Several other Council members were not as successful. This was getting entertaining. Braylock was turning an interesting shade of purple, which for Thoraxians usually meant either extreme anger or digestive distress. Your arrogance is astonishing. You have no idea what you're refusing. Then enlighten us, Ambassador Okonkwo said smoothly. Please explain what benefits we are turning down. Advanced technology, Councillor Yalrix said. Weaponry that can crack planets. Shields that can withstand stars. Engines that can cross the galaxy in days. And in exchange? Vasquez asked. Standard membership dues. Access to your resources. Compliance with Council regulations. Acceptance of Council oversight on your military development and expansion. So you want us to give you our resources, let you control our military, and follow your rules. In exchange, you will give us technology and protection we do not need. Vasquez tilted her head. Did I summarize that correctly? You oversimplify, Braylock said, but his voice lacked conviction. No, I simplified. There is a difference. Vasquez uncrossed her arms. Here is our counteroffer. We will establish trade agreements with any council species interested in fair exchange. We will share scientific data on a reciprocal basis. We will participate in joint defense operations against common threats. We will even attend these council sessions if invited. But we will not surrender our autonomy. We will not accept oversight, and we will not bow. You think you have a choice? Councillor Threx was vibrating now, his gaseous form roiling with anger. You are one species. We are 233. If we decide you are a threat, we will end you. And that, my friends, was the moment. Captain Reina Vasquez, representative of humanity, stood in the center of the most powerful political body in 5 galaxies. She was surrounded by species that had conquered stars while her ancestors were still figuring out fire. She was outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in every conceivable way. And she smiled. Not a professional smile, not a polite smile, a threatening smile. Then she raised her right hand and extended a single finger, the middle one. The entire council chamber erupted. Half the representatives were demanding her immediate arrest. A quarter were too shocked to speak. The rest, like me, were trying very hard not to laugh because this was the most interesting thing that had happened in 300 cycles, and I did not want to miss a second of it. That is a formal declaration of hostility in human culture, Dr. Tanaka explained helpfully to the nearest councillors. Also, an insult. A rather severe one. I know what it means, Braylock hissed. Guards. Seize them. The council security forces activated. 20 armed warriors from various species materialized around the human delegation, weapons powered and aimed. Marcus Webb cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed through the chamber like gunshots. I really would not do that if I were you, Vasquez said, her hand still raised, finger still extended. You see, there is something you should know about humans. What is that? Braylock demanded. We really do not like being threatened. Lieutenant Ramirez tapped her scanning device twice. Captain, I have 37 confirmed weapon signatures targeting us. 62 surveillance systems active, and the entire chamber is lined with quantum suppression fields to prevent unauthorized teleportation. Thank you, Lieutenant. Vasquez finally lowered her hand. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. The suppression fields have a critical flaw in their harmonic resonance. I could disable them in approximately 12 seconds. Please do not. Yes, ma'am. Vasquez turned back to Braylock. Here is what is going to happen, Chancellor. My delegation is going to walk out of this chamber. We are going to return to our ship. We are going to leave your station. And we are going to go home. If any of your forces attempt to stop us, there will be consequences. You dare threaten the council? Ulrix shrieked, her facets flashing angry reds and purples. No, Vasquez said quietly. I am promising the council. There is a difference. The guards moved closer. Energy weapons hummed. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, and Captain Reina Vasquez, who should have been terrified, just kept smiling. Now I have seen a lot of standoffs in my time on the council. Most of them end with the weaker party backing down. Some end with minor skirmishes. A few end with diplomatic incidents that take decades to resolve. This one was about to end in a way nobody expected. Final warning, Braylock said, his voice chambers modulating to maximum intimidation. Surrender peacefully or face immediate detention. Vasquez glanced at her security chief. Marcus, how many guards? Webb did not even look around. 20 visible, probably another 30 in reserve. Standard council security loadout. Plasma rifles, stun batons, energy shields. Nothing we have not trained against. Dr. Tanaka. Casualty assessment if this goes sideways? The small scientist pushed her glasses up her nose. Theirs or ours, Captain. Both. If they fire first, we can neutralize the visible threats in approximately 45 seconds. Collateral damage to the chamber would be significant. Council casualties would depend on how many of them panic and run, versus how many try to help their guards. Our casualties would be minimal, unless they have something we have not accounted for. She said this, like she was discussing the weather, like she was reading a grocery list. like she was not standing in the center of the most heavily defended location in council space surrounded by armed hostiles. Humans, I was learning, had a very different relationship with danger than the rest of us. Ambassador Okonkwo, Vasquez continued, still not looking at the guards. Legal assessment? The diplomat smiled that smooth smile of his. They invited us here under diplomatic immunity protocols. Any hostile action against us would violate 17 separate council charters, not to mention the Accords of Velthara, which specifically protect envoys during official hearings. If they fire on us, they invalidate their own legal authority. Lieutenant Ramirez, exit strategy. The young tech specialist finally looked up from her device. 3 viable routes. Primary exit through the main corridor, 28 seconds to reach our shuttle. Secondary through the eastern maintenance shaft, 41 seconds. Tertiary through the northern airlock, 53 seconds, but that one requires external EVA. Preference? Primary. It makes a statement. Vasquez nodded slowly. Then she addressed the entire council, her voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. You have a decision to make, honored councillors. You can let us leave peacefully, and we can all pretend this meeting went better than it actually did, or you can try to stop us, which will end badly for everyone involved. What will it be? You cannot possibly fight your way through this entire station, Councillor Threck said, but there was uncertainty in his vaporous voice now. Even if you defeat these guards, there are thousands more, hundreds of ships. You would not make it to your vessel. Try us, Marcus Webb said. Just 2 words, but the way he said them, with absolute certainty and zero hesitation, made several councillors float backward in their hoverpods. I decided this had gone far enough. Chancellor Braylock, I called out, using my position as Oversight Committee senior member to interrupt. Perhaps we should consider the legal ramifications, Ambassador Okonkwo mentioned. If we detain them unlawfully, it could set a dangerous precedent. Braylock's mandibles clacked together in agitation. They insulted the council. They threatened us. Actually, Dr. Tanaka interjected. Captain Vasquez merely extended her middle finger, which, while rude, is not technically a threat under any legal definition, and her statement about consequences was conditional on you initiating hostile action, which makes it defensive posturing rather than aggression. Legally speaking, you have no grounds to detain us. The lawyer talk. Humans loved their lawyer talk. They had built entire systems of governance around arguing about the exact meanings of words. It was simultaneously impressive and exhausting. This is ridiculous, Councillor Ulrich said. They are one ship, one tiny delegation from a backwater species. Why are we even debating this? Because, I said, surprising myself, they have a point. Every eye, sensor and optical organ in the chamber turned toward me. Explain yourself, Vorix Braylock demanded. I activated my hoverpod speaker system to address the full council. When was the last time a petitioning species challenged us? When was the last time anyone stood in this chamber and refused our terms? When was the last time we actually had to justify our own existence instead of simply accepting tribute and obedience? That is not how the council works, another councillor protested. Maybe it should be, I replied. Look at them. I gestured toward the humans with one of my trunks. They are not afraid. They came here expecting partnership, not submission. And when we offered them the same deal we offer everyone, subjugation dressed up as protection, they called us on it. You support their insolence? Braylock was vibrating with rage now. I support honest evaluation. I turned to face Vasquez directly. Captain, a question. If we let you leave, what then? Do you return to your space and fortify against us? Do you begin building weapons to counter our forces? Do you become an enemy? Vasquez met my gaze. 4 eyes to 2. Councillor Vorix, right? Correct? Here is the truth, Councillor. We do not want to be your enemy. We came here hoping to be your ally. But we will not trade our freedom for your approval. If you let us leave, we go home. We continue building our civilization our way. We remain open to trade, diplomacy, and cooperation, but we do it as equals or not at all. And if we are attacked by something we cannot handle alone, I pressed. If the Krovar return in greater numbers, If the Void Collective decides your species looks tasty, then we fight, Marcus Webb said simply. And if we lose, we lose. But we lose free. The chamber was silent again. But this time it was not the silence of shock. It was the silence of consideration. Chancellor, I said quietly, I move that we allow the human delegation to depart unmolested. Seconded, another voice called. Councillor Prex, a Silithian who rarely spoke but commanded respect when she did. This is unprecedented, Braylock said. So are they, I replied. The vote was called. It was close, closer than it should have been. But ultimately, 62% of the council voted to let the humans leave. Braylock slumped in his hoverpod, mandibles drooping. The human delegation is free to depart. But understand this, Captain Vasquez. You have made a very dangerous choice today. Without council protection, you will face threats you cannot imagine. We will manage, Vasquez said. Thank you, Councillor Vorix. She nodded to me. I nodded back. The guards lowered their weapons. The security fields deactivated, and the 5 humans walked out of the council chamber with the same casual confidence they had walked in with. As they left, I heard Lieutenant Ramirez say to Dr. Tanaka, I totally could have disabled those suppression fields. I know you could have, Sophia, Tanaka replied. That is why the captain told you not to. Kind of wanted to see what would happen though. We all did. But sometimes the best fights are the ones we avoid. That is very wise, Doctor. I have my moments. They were laughing as they disappeared down the corridor, laughing. After standing surrounded by armed guards in front of the most powerful political body in the galaxy, humans were absolutely insane. I loved it. After they left, the council chamber erupted into argument. Half the councillors thought we had made a terrible mistake. The other half thought we had avoided an even worse one. Braylock called for immediate military reconnaissance of human space. Others called for economic sanctions. A few, like me, called for patience and observation. The session dissolved into the usual political bickering that accomplished nothing but made everyone feel important. So I filed my report and returned to my quarters. I had recordings of the entire session, of course. Standard procedure. But I watched the moment again anyway. The moment when Captain Vasquez raised that single finger. Such a simple gesture. Such a profound message. We had expected supplication and received defiance. We had offered protection and been told it was not needed. We had threatened and been threatened in return. And somehow, impossibly, we had blinked first. 3 cycles later, I received a data packet through encrypted channels. The sender was listed as Lieutenant Sophia Ramirez of the human delegation. The message was brief. Councillor Vorix, thank you for your support. As a gesture of goodwill, please find attached our latest research on quantum field harmonics. We noticed your species uses quantum suppression technology extensively. These equations might improve your efficiency by 30 to 40%. No strings attached. Just neighbors helping neighbors. Captain Vasquez sends her regards. P.S. We knew Lieutenant Ramirez could disable your suppression fields. We let her scan them specifically so you would know we knew. Fair warning seems more polite than surprise. Stay safe out there. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened the attached research data. It was legitimate. Brilliant, actually. Mathematics that would take our engineers months to verify, but that I could tell immediately was groundbreaking. Technology that would revolutionize our defensive systems. And they just gave it away. No payment requested. No favors demanded. Just because. I drafted a response. Deleted it. Drafted another. Deleted that too. Finally, I settled on something simple. Captain Vasquez, your species is going to be a problem for this council. Not because you are hostile, but because you are going to make us reconsider everything we thought we knew about how civilizations interact. Thank you for the research. Thank you for the lesson. And thank you for that finger. We needed it, Councillor Vorix. I sent the message and poured myself a drink. Keltharian spiced wine, 300 cycles old, reserved for special occasions. This qualified. 6 cycles after that, the Krovar swarm launched a major offensive into Council space. 60 hive ships. Millions of warriors, the largest incursion in a century. They hit the border systems hard, overwhelmed our defenses, broke through 3 fortified positions in 2 days. The Council mobilized the fleet, called for emergency sessions, began evacuating civilian populations, and then without being asked, without any formal alliance or treaty or agreement, a human battle group appeared at the contested zone. 7 ships, only 7, against a Krovar swarm. I watched the battle feeds from my oversight position, watched those 7 human vessels tear through the Krovar like they were tissue paper, weapons that should not have been possible, tactics that made no sense until suddenly, they made perfect sense. Coordination that seemed almost telepathic. The Krovar retreated after losing 30 ships. 30, against 7. Captain Vasquez sent a message to Council Command afterward. It was very brief. Heard you had some bugs. We were in the neighborhood. Good luck with the rest. That was it. No demands for payment. No requests for formal thanks. No political maneuvering. Just neighbors helping neighbors. The Council called another emergency session, this time to discuss establishing formal diplomatic relations with humanity, not as petitioners, not as subjects, as equals. The vote passed unanimously. When the human delegation returned for the second hearing, Captain Vasquez walked in with that same confident stride, the same professional smile, the same team behind her. But this time when she entered the chamber, 233 species stood in respect. Braylock approached her personally. Captain Vasquez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for our initial reception. We would be honored to establish a formal alliance with humanity, as equals. Vasquez smiled, a genuine smile this time. We accept, Chancellor, as equals. She extended her hand, the human gesture of agreement. Braylock clasped it with his primary manipulator. And that, my friends, was how humanity joined the Galactic Council, not by bowing, not by begging, not by conforming to our expectations, but by raising a single finger and daring us to do something about it. They were right, of course, about everything. We had become complacent, arrogant, convinced of our own superiority simply because we had been doing this longer. Humans taught us that age does not equal wisdom, that experience does not guarantee correctness, that sometimes the newest voice in the room has the most important things to say. And they taught us all of this by being absolutely, categorically, magnificently unwilling to shut up and know their place. I retired from the Oversight Committee 2 cycles later, not because of the humans, but because of what they made me realize. I had spent 347 cycles enforcing a system I no longer believed in. Before I left, I sent one final message to Captain Vasquez. Thank you for the finger. It woke us up, some of us anyway. The rest will learn eventually. Keep being difficult. The galaxy needs more difficult people. Vorix. Her response came quickly. Counselor, being difficult is what we do best. See around the stars. Vasquez. I smiled my one Keltherian smile. Yeah? I thought? She definitely will.